In this module, let's talk about color correction. You're at the TheIndieLot, and this is the Filmmakers Bootcamp. I've said this before, but it's always best to get things right in the camera and not have to do so much in post or fix a lot of things. And that's not always possible for various reasons, but generally speaking, you want to try to do everything that you do and get it right in camera before you get to post and save yourself from having to fix a bunch of stuff once you're there. So, as it relates to this topic of color correction, okay, I want to show you this screen right here. This is a white balance card, and this is going to be used to help you get proper color correction or proper color balance in your camera before you ever shoot. And just real quickly, the way that you use this is when you're on set and you've got your lights set and you got your lights and your camera set. Basically, what you want to do is you want to have somebody get into that set and hold this white balance card in the lighting that is being projected on that set, okay? And then what you want to do with your camera is you want to fill your viewfinder with as much of that card as you can. You want to fill that viewfinder, and you want to take a snapshot of that. Then you go into your camera's white balance settings. By the way, we had a white side as well as this 18% gray. But once you've taken that snapshot of your white balance card, then you'll go into your camera settings. You go to your white balance settings and you'll choose your custom white balance. From there, you should be able to choose the image of the white balance card that you took the picture of, and then you just select that picture. Hit OK, just follow whatever promptings your camera gives you, and your camera will then use that image and readjust how it sees the colors. So in that way you affect you're basically performing color correction in camera so that you don't have to fiddle with it so much in post. Now, once you get into post, you'll probably do a little bit of fiddling and tweaking, just a little bit, but you'll have solved most of the issue if you can get as much of that balancing done in your camera before you even get to the shot. I'm in Davinci now, and you can see I'm on the color editing tab of Davinci. One of the things I did not do when I filmed this, and that what I should have done, is I should have used that white balance card I showed you in the beginning of this module, and I should have done a custom white balance on it so I wouldn't have to fidget with this in post. But as it turns out, I didn't do that, and so it works out great for our purposes here for training, because inevitably you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to want to consider color correction. Okay, so as we look at this image, hopefully you can see this and agree with me, but when I look at this image, okay, I see an image that has a pretty heavy blue cast to it. Everything seems to be blue all the way through. Now, as I go all the way through too, if you look down here in this scope, you'll see here that this parade, it's called a parade scope. You can see it shows me my red, green, blue channels, and sure enough, it shows me that my blues are much higher than it, both in the midtones. It looks to be about the same in the shadows, but it's higher in the midtones and it's higher in the highlights. And I'm scrolling through this, and you can see as I stop, I barely get any changes. So it's pretty consistent all the way through. In color correction, we want to bring the whites closer to white. And in this particular shot, and this is not always the case, but in this particular shot, my niece, she has a shirt on that has white in it. And so I could use this as a starting point to say, okay, I'm going to consider the white in this image to be true white, and I'm going to color balance or color correct around this white. So in Davinci, there's a real easy way to do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this eyedropper down here in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to bring it up here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the white. Now when I do, first off, notice how the image changes, okay? And then notice how our parade of colors has changed. We've dropped down the blue, and now it's matching exactly with the red and green. We've got the same value in our highlights, we've got the same values in our midtones, and we've got the same values in our shadows. And so that's a real quick way in DaVinci to be able to do color balance. Now, other thing I want you to notice here too, this 0 represents complete black, and this top line up here represents complete white. And you don't ever want your colors to exceed either above this line of complete white or below this line of complete black. But we do have some headroom in here to be able to adjust some of it. I don't remember if we talked about this already, but if we didn't, then I'm going to introduce this concept here. When I shot this film, I shot it with a CineStyle is what it's called for Canon. There is a profile that I downloaded from the internet and installed on my DSLR called CineStyle. And what that does is it shoots your footage at a less contrast, or in a less contrasted way. In other words, it reduces the contrast and kind of grays or washes out the image. It may be hard to see here, but once I start adjusting it, you'll definitely be able to see how washed out it really is. Okay, and so this CineStyle, or sometimes it's referred to as log, you'll hear it as log format, and again, it's this real flat way of shooting, and it doesn't look very nice. But what it does is when you bring your footage into post, it gives you the ability to edit or enhance your lows, your midtones, your shadows, and gives you some room to work with. And so it's actually a good thing. Doesn't look good at first, but your post-production can make it look really sharp and make it really pop. So let's go ahead and, well, first off, let me just show you this. I'm going to click here. There is our image before color correction. And here is our parade before color correction. And then here is the change after. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to add a node, I'm going to add a serial, and that's because the editing that I'm going to do next, I want it to be independent of the first edit that I did, which was doing the color correction. And so now what I want to do is I want to play with expanding, it's called luminance, okay, bringing my red, greens, and blues up to a brighter level, crushing down the blacks a little more, okay? And then we'll work with the midtones. So first off, what I'll do is I'll grab this point right here, and you can see I have all the colors and the Y selected. So what I do here, the adjustment mic here is going to affect all the channels. I could also individualize a channel and just work with red or just work with green, but I'm going to go ahead and work with everything. I am going to bring this up and watch my image and watch my parade. You can see the image is brightening, okay, and maybe right about there. And even now, using that quick white balance, I can immediately see, now that I've done this, I can see here in my color parade that really my highlights are still a bit bluer than the greens and the reds. It looks like the red is a tad bit higher than the green. And so there's still some room for improvement on this. But using this eyedropper tool in the bottom left, I was able to just do a quick color correction on it, and now from here I can tweak. But let's finish on this one here. Let's finish tweaking. We've pulled this up. Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate this. I'm going to go ahead and push those channels above the line and look at the image. All right, it gets very blown out. And basically, if I were to stop there and consider that done, all right, basically in essence what's happened is my image has lost information in it. So that information is gone. It's blown out, it's destroyed. And that's what happens if, when you're shooting, you shoot at too high of an exposure, as you blow it out and you can never get that color information back. I want to keep this below, and so I'm making sure that these little guys don't go over either, but I'm using mostly these crests of this part of the color channels to set my highest luminance value. And it seemed like touching that line here on blue would be good, and I don't go over on any of these other ones. And so that's about as high as I'm going to go in the highlights. Now I'm going to bring down the shadows. All right, I'm going to bring them down to just above the line. I don't want to, again, I don't want to go below, because as I crush, I'm losing all that image information. If you look at the image there, you can see how poor that is. I'm going to bring that back and start again. I'm going to bring it to just above black, and so all of these dark places in here, they are not quite true black because I'm still short of that 0. To the human eye, they look, you know, pretty black. So let me show you the before and after. So there's the before and there's the after. This is the CineStyle profile for my Canon, shooting at a very low contrast setting. And then after some color correction applied and luminance correction, you can see how already it's made it much richer. Now, I kind of like that, but let's just see what happens when we pop up the midtones over here and bring those up higher. So let's just bring it up slightly. All right, just to kind of balance. I'm trying to just balance it between these two this line here and this line here. That is basically a color corrected and luminance corrected image. Okay, but let's do a further bit of tweaking, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add another node, add serial, and I'm going to use this to do some further tweaking on the individual color channels. All right, so this one here I use to just do a general color grade, or not color grade, but color correction. This here was my luminance, and now I'm going to do some tweaking on the individual channels. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to start with red. So I'm going to go ahead and select the red there. And I think maybe if I just bring up the reds a little bit, just a tad bit. And, you know, and it's you can use these scopes, and it's also a thing that you can do by eye. Green definitely seems to be down, but when I bring the green up, it just throws a little too much green in there. Although that might be a happy medium right there. Let's bring the blue down just a tad. Alright, let's see what our difference is. So not a ton of difference, but this is the basic process of color correction and color grading. Now again, our midtones here in the blue don't seem to be... Let me just try this. That seemed to do it. Okay, and maybe too our overall luminance might be a little too high for my liking. Maybe perhaps something like that. Okay. Alright, go ahead and save my work, which I just did, Control S, and that's basically it. You may decide on doing something else, but this is just the basic process of color correction. It's just a matter of trying to pull your whites closer to white, and let's turn off this there. Okay, that's the luminance there, okay. There's the luminance correction. There's the color correction without the general, and we applied it first. Still quite a bit bluer. And then there is the one that I've kind of settled on. To me now it's looking a bit yellow, and those walls are probably helping that. But I also can notice it looks like in my lows I've got this downward line starting from red to green to blue, and that's usually an indication of yellow. So let's go ahead and let's try to bring the low end of blue up just a little bit. And that actually looks more like it's in the midtones. So I'm going to bring that up. And then we're also going to do the same thing with the green. I'm going to put a point there, and then from here, bring up the green a bit. Maybe to right about there. And that might be looking better to me. So just like the editing that we went through on our film Wrong Number, in the same way, it's a lot of tweaking, a lot of experimentation as you're trying to figure it out and get it to look right. Let me see. I don't ever use the waveform. Vector scope is a good one to use. All right, so in your vector scope, this is magenta, blue, cyan, green, yellow, and red. And then all the, well, it's these right here. Okay, it's these magenta, blue, cyan, green, yellow, and then up to red and all and everything in between. One of the ways you can use this vector scope is if any time, and it just depends on the image. Let's see how it changes if I mute these. Okay, you can see how it's pushed closer to blue. There's really not a lot of color in there that's expanding. Sometimes, depending on your image, you may see this cloud, so to speak, expand way out here or into these boxes. And when it hits into these boxes, you know right away that the color that represents is considered to not be broadcast safe. And so you're tweaking your color correction and luminance and stuff to try to pull those things out of the boxes and get them closer to center. Sometimes you can focus in on just a white area and only color correct it and try to bring it to right in the middle, and then when you look at your whole image, it will have adjusted the overall image as well and bring all your colors closer. So watch that vector scope as I mute or unmute first color correction we applied. Okay, you can see it moved things away from blue. Okay, here's the luminance correction, which kind of strengthened those colors. And then here is the final tweaking. And again, it pushed things a little closer to yellow and to red. So let's try this. Let's go here, offset. Okay, so if I'm pushed closer to yellow, and I want to try to dial it back a little bit, I'm going to bring this closer to blue and cyan. And let's just see. You know what? Before I do that, let's go ahead and let's add a new node so we don't destroy what we've done. And apply this here. So you can see, as I'm adjusting, you can see that whole cloud is moving. And now it's more centered over the center of that vector scope. And that might even be, I think I actually like that. I've pulled it away from yellow, and yeah, I think I'm really liking that right there. Very good. So again, it's up to you. It's up to what your eye sees and what you prefer. But this is the process. Okay, it's just fixing the colors, getting the colors to show up better, or more true to what they really are.